Mediocre Rumble Brothers. I am Udon, your host, with Corey and Edwin here, and this is our monthly game episode on Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime was a Nintendo GameCube game developed by Retro Studios. It released on November 18th in 2000. Jesus, 2002. Holy crap. Um, that's how you feel old. I remember when that came out. It came out in 2002. It was made by Retro Studios. It was the first Metroid game after Super Metroid, which came out in 1994. So this was the first Metroid game that came out after like an 8-year hiatus with no Metroid games. And not only that, it obviously was a changing point in the franchise because now Samus was going from a 2D side scroller to a 3D platformer, first-person shooter-esque kind of game. Now, as usual, first we'll go around and discuss everyone's background dealing with Metroid or Metroid in general and the Prime games. Either one of you want to take the baton first? Go right ahead.
I guess I've played Metroid games for a long time. Metroidvania is kind of a genre of game that I also kind of play in my pastime. So, that being said, the first part of that is Metroid, and anybody who's played Super Metroid or Castlevania 4 or Super Castlevania are familiar with Samus and this entire franchise. And I remember seeing Metroid Prime being announced and seeing it as a first person. I was like, oh, Nintendo's trying to do a Halo here. This is kind of interesting. But I was kind of excited about it because it was just taking the series in a completely different direction. And I don't know any other games that have basically changed genres so much. Granted, it is very much a Metroid game, but in first person. However, because of the first person aspect, it feels very unique paired with the level design that they carry. So I had it on GameCube. For this episode, I did play the remaster on the Switch, and I'll pass it to Edwin because I think all of us played it on different things, right?
The Wii. Then I'm not really sure what you guys played it on. But
I played it on the GameCube, original.
Oh, you played
hardware.
the original.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Corey, you played the remake.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you both played the remake because I assumed you both
No.
had it. Okay. I mean, I played it on the Wii. I mean, it's where I originally played it in the first way to begin with. Even afterwards, I played it on the GameCube because I bought all the games. But it's I played all the 3D Metroids, and then I think the only side-scroller one that I played. I mean, side-scroller if you consider Dread as a side-scroller, it's still 3D. And then I played Metroid Fusion. I did not play any of the original Metroids on the NES or SNES. But I played all the Prime games. Unfortunately, the only one I have not finished entirely is Metroid Prime Echoes, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, because that thing is hard as shit. But my favorite one is Metroid Prime 3. So, after playing...
Did you also play Other M?
Yeah, I played Other M. As Infamous, everyone is the infamous Metroid game because it's just it plays out somewhat like a movie. But, I mean, I kind of liked it. I like it almost in its entirety, but I can understand why some people don't like it. But we're here to talk about Metroid Prime. I played Metroid Prime once before, and I did beat it. And so this is not completely blind playthrough, but it has been several years since I did finish it the first time.
For me, it was my first time playing through Prime 1 all the way. I had the original GameCube one, but I don't think I ever finished the game. I did enjoy playing it back then, but I was kind of just Blue Goblin brain with other things that had come out, and I would get lost in a JRPG and just totally forget. And I do remember playing through Metroid Prime 2 on GameCube. I think I was doing that last year just for fun, but to get a chance to play through Metroid Prime 1 for our Game of the Month is kind of nice because I got the remake and I remember starting it and it's oh, this is a much better quality of life version of the game. But again, the same thing happened from when I first played it on GameCube. Is a bunch of other games came out, and I kind of got lost in the sauce on other stuff. but getting a chance to sit down and play this all the way through is like one. Finally, I played through a game that I bought on my backlog from like a year ago, just like all the way, instead of it just being like, yeah, I played it 30 minutes, put it on the shelf, and never saw it again. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, for me, it's another one of those like I like Nintendo games, but I have definitely not tried all of their IPs. Kind of like when we played Ocarina of Time. I have never touched a Metroid game like at all ever. No 2D, no 3D. If I was going to play a Metroid game, the Prime series is probably where I would want to start because I do enjoy the first person perspective. And I did buy this for my GameCube a while ago, and I had started playing it a while ago, but kind of like Corey, I fell off of it and just started playing other shit. So I picked up my save from where I had it and was able to play it all the way through. And foreshadowing for my attitude going into the rest of this episode, unlike Zelda, where it opened my eyes to why people like the series and like got me interested enough to play like other Zeldas like Link's Awakening, and I was enjoying playing Wind Waker that we did last month. I genuinely don't like this. And it's more like I don't even think the game itself is bad. But the biggest thing that I had coming out of this that I was asking a few people who I know like it was I asked them like in the nicest way possible. I mean this in the nicest, most sincere way possible. Please explain to me why people like this game. And because it's just like and granted, some of this might be fixed in the remaster, so maybe Corey can tell us about that, some of my gripes. But genuinely, I mean, I already knew I wasn't a huge fan of Metroidvanias as it was, but even so, I mean, there's plenty of things to like about this game, but the gameplay itself is what really drags it down for me. But I'll save that bitching for when we talk about the gameplay overall. So I was optimistic going in and coming out of it. I don't think I'm invested in the IP, unlike I was with Zelda. Like I was probably going to buy Prime 4, and now I'm probably going to pass on it. But anyways, so basically, I'm not going to go point by point for the story, but this is a broad overview. Basically, Samus responds to a distress call coming from some space pirates above this planet called Talon 4. She fucks their shit up on this space station, but basically she fucked up this boss, this like apparently it's a some like giant like parasite queen or something. It blows up this thing and everything comes crashing down to Talon 4. Samus loses all of her upgrades because this is supposed to be taking place between Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, even though I think at this point the Prime series has been like, I don't know if it's confirmed, but I think the Prime series is supposed to be like an alternate timeline to like the 2D Metroids. I don't think they're all congruent, but that's just a guess. That's what I've heard anyways. But she loses her upgrades and lands on the planet with her spaceship, which, fun fact, Samus's spaceship doesn't actually have a name, like canonically as far as I know, but the person at Retro Studios who was mainly responsible for designing her ship named it the Thrush Eterna, but that's not official. That's just the name he gave it, which I thought was a really cool. It's a really cool name. But so she lands on the planet, and like very broadly, through investigating the planet, she learns that the space pirates, have been down here conducting experiments with this phazon element that killed the Chozo on this planet a long time ago. They're experimenting on the phazon. They're experimenting on the titular Metroids. They're using it to upgrade themselves and all this other stuff to where they make this the Metroid Prime, and Samus has to go through all these different kind of places, like basically trailing the pirates and learning what they're doing and taking out their operation before finally taking out the Metroid Prime. You learn all of this through scanning stuff, which is a really, really big part of the game. I would before I'm trying not to launch into gameplay immediately, since that's gonna be the bulk of this conversation. So I'll start with stuff that I like first, and unfortunately, most of it's superficial. But so we'll start, like I said, with superficial stuff. So overall looks of the game, the sound of the game, the music of the game. Like, what do you guys feel about all those aesthetic parts of it? Like, how do you feel about the art design, the sound design, the music, like everything that accompanies the gameplay? How do you feel about it?
The music is really good. I listen to the lo-fi versions of the Metroid soundtrack often when I'm working, and it's just so almost therapeutic. Like it just gets into a flow state, which I would say is very mandatory for what the game is. Because I need that calming, what is it, the water music and stuff, because some of the platforming, but we'll get to that later. The art direction for this game is really cool, and something with the remake that's neat is as you scan things and make your progress through, you unlock things in the main menu, and it unlocks concept art, but it also unlocks the original concept art and then the updated version of the concept art, so you can see what it looked like and then what they did to kind of enhance the designs. Because you get higher texture quality and things like that, so a lot of the things that might have been implied in the older one are actually modeled out and stuff in this one. So I think the world building with like the structures and things are really kind of neat, and it really kind of brings its own alien identity, kind of in a, I guess, Aztec-y Mayan type of aesthetic, but the world layout to me is really neat, and yeah, the sound quality is cool. The monster designs are kind of fun. I like the pirates. I don't really care so much about like the bug creatures. I guess they're still neat, but the pirate designs are like way more fun, in my opinion.
So like, I mean, fun fact. I think it's interesting that you mentioned. I find it cool that you get the old and new concept art, because an important thing to note is that Retro Studios was also responsible for the Metroid Prime remaster. So it's almost like you're getting like a look at like what they did originally, and then like how it's like now they have another crack at it, how they thought to like update it, right? So that's kind of interesting. Because important to note, Retro Studios is like the shepherds of the Prime series all the way through. Even 4, when they weren't supposed to do it, they ended up doing it anyways. So, anyways, Edwin, what about you?
Music, it's like, as Corey said, it's relaxing, but also in a sense that's also suspenseful, because it is like a very dangerous world, so it's just always keep you on your toes. But I was shooting a lot in the game, so the music I didn't really hear all that much. But again, Corey said that he listens to lo-fi, and I listened to some of it as well for like collaborations. But the art design, for the space station, it's cool, very high tech. The way that Corey described the Chozo ruins, I like the way that he described it. It is like Mayan with a technological twist to it. I always thought that was cool, because the Chozos are really interesting race, because they are the ones who did create Samus. So there's like a lot of mystery behind them, because like the whole series revolves around them anyway. So it is really cool that it's like a mix between past and future, put into one for their type of culture. I was actually surprised when Ridley showed up, because I forgot that this game does go off of the original game. So I was surprised to see Mecha Ridley as like in all his armor, not just like regular purple one. So I completely forgot about that. So I was surprised to see him in chrome rather than purple. But he still looks really cool. And like some of the enemies are a little weird looking, like somewhat simplistic, like Corey said, the bugs. And then some of the ice creatures, they look like another enemy from another game. But I'm just gonna say that the weird one is just it was Ratchet and Clank going commando. There's a specific enemy in Metroid Prime that looks similar. It's those those 2-footed ice ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the 2-footed ones that you have to shoot them in the back as those ice, like, I don't even know how to describe them.
Yeah, you break their shell or something, and then they're like, "Crap, my back's exposed."
My ass.
There's like another enemy in Ratchet and Clank that looks exactly like that, but it's just like like a horse, and it's purple. So I just thought that was kind of funny.
It's funny that you said that, because when I was looking at him, I was like, "What the hell does that remind me of?" And I couldn't figure it out, and I was just like staring at them, and just been like, "I think I've seen this before, but I just don't know where."
Probably a strong connection because they were all, Ratchet and Clank GameCube or Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 2 and the Metroid on the GameCube was all around the same time, so you might have been playing them around the same time. So it's probably like a strong connection between the visualness of them.
They go back and forth. I mean, I just like the futuristic sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, so like the art and sound, and especially the atmosphere, are probably the highest praise I have for the game. While not as good as Wind Waker, I can tell you from playing the GameCube version on original hardware, graphics still hold up. They are a bit dated. Like I say, it's not as strong, not nearly as strong as Wind Waker's, like being able to hold up, but it holds up pretty good. Aside from some of the creatures, like Samus herself looks really great. Meta Ridley looks really great. Some of the bugs look, a little polygonal, but that's fine. The music, I really do like. Aside from one track, and again, it's probably because I was like forced to hate it because of the backtracking, but I genuinely don't like the Magmore Caverns track with the ticking because it pisses me off after a certain point. Where it's like I like it on a surface level, it's like duh, but then it's like tick 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 in the middle of all like the deep like bassy notes and shit like that, and I'm just like, God, it starts annoying me after a while. Starts someone's like banging on the inside of my head when it's doing that. I'm sure it sounds great in like remixes and lo-fi, like you said, but like raw, and that's like the only track I dislike at this point. But the atmosphere of the game is what really sold it to me. It's like I like the idea of this game and I wanted to like this game, but the gameplay just drags it down because it really feels like Samus is like genuinely like just stranded and alone. Like, oh, she's only in it, like she only has herself to rely on in this strange area. Because a lot of the music is pretty foreboding in a lot of ways. It's not very like action packed outside of like maybe boss fights. Very atmospheric music. Because even like when you're scanning things, I'm unsure whether or not the information that you can read after scanning stuff is like from an AI in her suit, or if that is Samus making notes herself. It's kind of unclear because it doesn't use like I or anything like that. It's like someone's telling her something. Because like Samus almost seems like the truest sense of a silent protagonist, because even Olimar from Pikmin, like, while you don't hear him speak, he's like writing notes down in the first person as he's like making observations on this alien planet, whereas like Samus is just kind of like wandering around alone, and it seems like even the scanner, like that isn't even really her. That's like an AI reading something out to her after her suit like scans it, right?
Yeah, so it's just her information database showing up on screen. It's not really her making any notes. I don't think she really puts in any opinion throughout the entire Prime series.
Yeah, I am very indifferent about this situation.
Yeah.
Well, I think the only one where she does. I mean, I didn't get too far in Prime 2, but in Prime 3, she does have like friends like comrades to help her out. So maybe you'll have like some body language, like how she feels about them. But in terms of like actually speaking or like notes that you can take, I don't really think she has an opinion.
It's just the neutrals from Futurama. It's like, I have no stronger feelings either way. That's not even like a negative thing. I'm just saying like it adds to the foreboding, like aloneness of it all, that she's not even talking to herself. She's just being silent and going about her business. Samus herself, I always thought was really cool. Her suit's really awesome. I love the gun. I love big shoulder pads. It's great. The design of the enemies, like you said, the aliens are kind of whatever for me. The space pirates look really cool. Meta Ridley's really awesome. The Metroids themselves, not the Prime one, just the regular Metroids, are really cool. The Prime one kind of looks silly, IMO. Oh, I also like the smaller, like little touches they did to the game, because even back in the GameCube days, you're playing it from a first-person perspective, but as if you're inside Samus's helmet. So, like, when stuff flashes on screen, like with missiles or fire, well, yeah, you get, like, you can see the reflection of her face in the visor, and I thought that was, like, really, really cool. And, like, when you go through Steam and stuff like that, like, her visor will fog up for a second. Like, the small touches like that really adds to, like, the immersion of you, like, being in Samus's suit. And, fun fact, Retro Studios originally really wanted to make this a third-person shooter, but Miyamoto had to really tell them, like, no, we're going to make it first-person. It's going to be first-person. They kind of got their wish, because they told them, it's like, hey, we want to do the Morph Ball, but the Morph Ball's not going to work in first-person, so we need to do third-person for that, and that's the only time you, like, really bent on it. And that's why you have like brief cutscenes of Metroid moving, or Metroid fucking Samus moving. Yeah, so I did the Link and Zelda thing. of Samus, going in and out of the morph ball, like the camera zooming in and out, so you get like a brief glimpse of her in third person. Was like the remnants of that idea.
You can really break the camera, like going back and forth between that in certain areas.
I'm sure. I wouldn't doubt it. Unfortunately for me, that's kind of where my praise for the game ends. It's just like, so there's not like a lot of talk about the story. That's the superficial aspects, like the stuff surrounding it. So let's get into the meat of the conversation, which is like the actual mechanics and gameplay. So this is a first-person shooter, and in its original iteration, it's a single-stick first-person shooter. So you are very beholden to the lock-on feature. I know for a fact they changed it to a twin-stick shooter in the remake, and that was very much needed because combat in this game, and I know in the Wii version it's probably also easy to control with the motion controls, but the combat in this game is very subpar in IMO. Like especially outside of boss fights, dealing with trash enemies, it's kind of just aggravating, especially on original hardware where it's like, lock onto this, and if the lock on isn't doing what you want it to do, you're just fucking fish in a barrel. You're just getting eaten alive. And also makes platforming, which this game isn't a huge platformer, but you definitely have more than one like platforming segment where you have to make certain jumps from this to that. And as you probably can figure out with a single stick shooter, and what I mean by that for people who don't know is that the left-hand stick of the GameCube controller controls both Samus moving and what direction she's looking in. So anyone who's played pretty much literally any other first-person shooter ever where you move with the left stick and look with the right stick, that is not how this works. That's how it works in the remake, but not how it works in the original.
What does the C-stick do then?
The C-stick changes changes your gun arm powers.
Yeah. I always thought that was weird too, because even in the remake, the way that you do it is you hold like some buttons down and swap with the right stick or something like that. Yeah, but then you still aim with the right stick. They could have just used the C stick to aim. That would have really helped.
That's what I thought it worked as. It was like, so I understand your frustration. Then it was like that.
Yeah,
I'd probably be super pissed. I had to play on the GameCube controller as well.
It almost has like that same feeling that GoldenEye 64 has, where you move and then turning is kind of ridiculous, as I think you have to hold a button to kind of stand still and use your gun or something like that.
Yeah, it's basically shooting is impossible unless you lock onto an enemy, because shooting it in any other way is just a practice in futility. And also it means when you're jumping, you can't look really where you're jumping. Granted, Retro did make it to where when you jump, Samus does look down a little bit, so you have something to look at, but again, it's very aggravating because you just kind of have to more or less guess where you're jumping. Now, I hate that. I understand that was fixed in the remake, so I'm not going to hold it against the game too much because it was something that got fixed, but that is by far not where my complaining stops. So since I already touched on it, as far as Samus's arsenal goes, Samus has her usual like beam arm that has Mega Man mechanics to where basically every one of her beam arms can have like a single shot or a charged shot. She has a regular correct me if I'm wrong pronouncing these, but she has like the power beam, like her regular shot weapon. She has like the zappy zap weapon, like the Phazon or whatever gun.
The
wave blaster. She has the ice gun, and she has like the Inferno laser gun or whatever. Plasma gun. All of those have a charge shot. They also all have like a supercharged shot that uses missiles, which is Samus's only ammunition because her regular shots don't consume anything, but she does have like a limited supply of missiles that she can restock from drops from enemies or occasional missile stations found throughout the world. On top of that, to accompany this, she has a couple different visor settings. She only has the normal visor setting, scanner visor, X-ray visor, and heat vision visor. So normal visor is useless. That's just how you look at things. Scanner visor you're going to be using a lot because there's a shit ton of things to scan in this game, and it basically also tells you how to kill enemies, like when you scan them, and like gives you hints for puzzles and stuff. This is a minor complaint. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I was just agreeing. Like, yeah, you're going to use scan a lot. I mean, I thought that I scanned a lot of shit, and then it came up and said, "You have scanned 50% of the objects in this game." It's like, what? Like, I'm
Yeah,
at the end.
pretty much like there's a ton of like random shit you can scan. Like every enemy variant can be scanned. Now it's not bad on the surface, but the problem is when you bring out your scanner visor, it also drops your gun arm. So you can't. You can. The only thing you can do while scanner visor's up is scan. You can't shoot. You can move, but you can't shoot. Which sucks when you're trying to activate like maybe your X-ray or your heat vision visor in the middle of combat, because those do have combat applications. Then hit the scanner visor and then have to waste time getting hit trying to get out of it again. Not to mention, it just feels awkward not being able to do anything with scanner visor while it's active. Truthfully, I think like a really easy fix here for like quality of life would just make scan not its own separate visor, just make it a button. Just when you're looking at something, like, or if you hold it down, you can see what's scannable. Like it's just a fling. It's a thing that can very easily be flicked on and off, because it does take like a hot second for it to like filter out when you're changing your visors. And the applications of X-ray or heat vision visors basically just let you see enemies you wouldn't otherwise be able to see, because you're going to be fighting quite a few like invisible enemies or enemies that are hard to see without those visors. And then you also have her missiles, which their missiles limited. I already touched on them, but that's basically Samus's arsenal. She fires, well, her regular powered arm beam cannon, whatever, has, you can fire as fast as you press the button, but that's basically throwing like wet tissue paper at most enemies. So basically you're going to be exclusively using charge shots, and if you actually want to kill something, you're going to use super missiles, which take a lot of ammunition. Now on the surface, it's not bad. I think the problem is like the repetitiveness. I mean, how do you guys feel overall about how the combat actually works in the game, like just minute by minute shooting?
I think my experience is probably the best one of the three versions. I'm not sure anyone will touch on motion controls if that's how he was playing it, but because I was playing it like a typical first-person shooter, like it does feel really fun. I agree, first-person platforming is not necessarily the greatest thing to ever do, and getting a chance to actually look where the hell I'm jumping does help, but there were plenty of times where I was just like, I didn't gauge it properly, or I didn't initiate my double jump at the right time, and so I fucking missed something, or or you get shot in the middle of the air, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, yeah, piss off, I'm just trying to get through this area, I'm not going to fight you. And then I get hit with a random ass missile, and it's like, oops, and then you fall away to the bottom of the room, and you're like, God, I have to climb all the way back up here. And this is a room that has either invisible platforms, and so I have to turn my stupid vision on or something, or whatever it is. But like, I didn't really fight a lot of the creatures, especially like the bugs that kind of just, they come out of the ground when you're walking by, and I'm just like, all right, later, guys. The pirates, I only typically engaged if it was a room that locks the door and makes you engage with them, because there's not really any benefit to fighting them, since you don't really get ammo. You kind of use ammo and hope they drop one, or you break some boxes and replenish that way, or just make your way to the next save point and then get everything refilled anyways. And I think the only other times that there are enemies, there's like this weird robot enemy or something where they put a thing on the door and you can't get out unless you kill them. And I don't know if they're like hard to see or something. They're probably the most annoying things that I was fighting, because they're tiny and they move around a bunch, and it's kind of hard to lock on because I think they use like electric bullshit that fucks with your visor. But all of that sounds like negative things. But because I was able to use like a twin stick, I can use Samus's like side jumping and stuff when you're in combat, and like aim and look around and kind of fully embrace the environment I'm fighting in when I need to, and that really kind of helps and makes it a lot more fun. Though I would say the biggest bang for your buck in like combat engagements is the boss fights, and we can probably go into those later, just because they're kind of a unique experience in themselves. But I do find them far and few between, and the best one I think in the whole game is, or at least the most engaging, is the first one. So not the one on the space station, but the one after that, the flower monster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the combat is, it's not bad. I feel like I did more scanning than I did shooting, and I think it's interesting because I believe the scanning thing stateside is what people complained about the most, but that was the most popular feature in Japan when they were playing because of the amount of stuff that you were unlocking. Because that's how you unlock all the secrets and things like concept art and stuff is by scanning stuff. So I am missing a lot of things, but I could also just go online and look it up if I really want to.
I scan shit.
You almost need to scan the bosses though to even understand how to beat them.
Yeah,
well, some of them I did have to, but it was just because like I'm doing this and it's not working.
I think the problem is that like a large portion of the story, in fact, pretty much all of it outside of like environmental context clues, is fed to you through scanning like certain space pirate terminals. So my problem with it is that like it's a very dry, boring way to feed information to the player. It's literally almost like, as some people, a lot of games nowadays have like when you start a game, the tutorial is just a bunch of pop-ups that tell you exactly how to play the game, but then the rest of the game doesn't have any of those. It's not necessarily a pop-up, kind of is, but it's like literally just having pop-ups appear throughout the entire game telling you what the story is, basically. And I'm just like, this is just like a very uninteresting, boring way for me to absorb the story, and I'm just like, I'm not into it. Like, I get the concept, I really do, in a certain sense, but it's like, it's such a heavily like leaned upon mechanic, and you have to use it fucking everywhere, and it's just it's at least on the GameCube version very like janky to turn on and off. Like, it doesn't feel very good, it's not snappy, it's just annoying after a certain point.
For some of the things that you scan, if you scan the computers from the space pirates, it does, the way that it's written is from the perspective of the space pirates. So if you want like more of a better perspective than what you usually scan as Samus for like anything else, the way your suit computer describes it, then you probably have a more interesting time reading the space pirates logs.
No, that's what I mean though, is that, no, I understand what you're saying. That's what I'm referencing when I say that. Like, it's even like, I understand I'm reading space pirate logs, and obviously their banter, their canter, whatever you want to call it, is not as dry as just like a computer reading out information, granted. But if I'm just gonna sit there, and don't get me wrong, I love reading, I love books. A visual novel is more interesting to read than how it is presented here, because in a visual novel you have a bunch of like nice visuals and usually voice acting go along with all the dialogue that I'm reading. This is just like reading dryly out of a book in broken order, and it's just really just not fun to absorb the story in this way. At least to me, it is. So,
well, even if it wasn't the computer describing something, Samus is very robotic-like, so she'd probably like say it in a similar fashion. But if you really want to know the way they thought or think that she would react to everything, you should just play Metroid Other M. And then you'll have a better understanding of why she's the way that she is. But I mean, I like Other M, but it's funny the hate that it gets. For me.
See, it's this, and and I'm not even like advocating for this because it would take away from the like the isolationist like positive it has going for it. There's a reason. Well, there's more than one reason, but there's a big narrative reason why Cortana exists in Halo, because Master Chief is a lot like Samus in like he's a man of few words sort of thing, and Cortana's the one making observation, asking the questions, because she's going to be the one that's taking note of all this stuff. I'm not saying I want Samus running around talking to herself. I'm just saying, like, I don't know, maybe a cutscene where she scans a camera and you have the pirates talking to each other about something, instead of just dryly reading it. I don't necessarily need Samus's direct perspective on something. I'm just saying, give me some other more interesting way to absorb this story information than just dryly reading a bunch of text logs, It
would be kind of cool to like see two pirates, they're speaking in whatever language they're using, and then her suit starts to translate it, so you kind of get this. It just lends itself more to the world building, right? Yeah. It's just like, oh, they're not, I don't actually understand them. My suit does. And then you could pick up clues, like even by scanning enemies that don't know your presence. They might be muttering something that could be a clue to a puzzle that's in that room. It's like, oh, there's this thing over there that it looks like it moves, but I can't quite figure it out. Because every time you enter a room, the enemies are like, you! And they're just attacking you. Immediate aggro, right? So that would be cool to have that, just audible narrative into it. And even still, like, if Samus's suit replied to her in a similar sense of, like, Navi or something, where the suit's just like, Samus, your vitals, or something like that. Like, she doesn't have to talk back to it, but it could be interesting.
Even then, I feel like that's going to severely diminish from like the isolationist perspective, because it's one of the biggest positives it has going for the game is that atmospheric quality to it. And because like even stuff like Legend of Zelda, like, Link isn't technically talking. You might have him say yes or no and some shit, but everyone else is talking to him, which removes that kind of, that loneliness, right? But even if the only talking is coming from, the antagonist, the people who are trying to kill her, I don't think it would really hurt that isolationist thing, right? Because we already hear them talking anyways, because when they're flying around shooting at her, they're all going all like gorblorblorp, they're fucking making their weird alien noises, right? So
good
like,
old gorblorp.
Yeah. Wart.
Yeah. Prime 3 is more alive in that sense. Granted, Samus is not is not at all talkative, but yeah, Other M, that's like one of the best things about it, is that game is very alive. Everyone talks to Samus, and Samus talks to everyone, and everyone has an opinion about themselves. I mean, the story could have been a little better, but I mean, if that's what you're looking for in a Metroid game and less of the motion control or like first person aspect things, then yeah, I'm recommending Other M if you want to look into that. But
like I said, it's not what I want though. I like the isolationist thing. I don't want her spouting her opinion on everything. Like, I just want a different way to absorb the story that isn't just me reading a text log. That's
well,
it.
there's a movie section for that.
Well,
but it's like, I mean, yeah, it's like you said, the gameplay the gameplay in Metroid Prime 1 for me, the way that it is, it's mainly just point and shoot, but a lot of motion control. On the Wii remote, and obviously after he's used the nunchucks, it's obviously divided between them, but the jumping is the B button on the back, and then the A is obviously the shoot button. And it caught me off guard, but the D-pad is on the top of the remote, right above the A button, and then the down button is the missile. And then in the game, one of the hardest things that you need to do is use a charge shot missile shot.
Yeah, that does sound awful. Ugh.
Yeah, so you have to hold the A button and then it's like nudge your thumb upwards to hit the down button on the D-pad. That was like the most difficult. Yeah, it's the most difficult thing to do. But for changing visors and guns, it's just holding the the plus button or the minus button, and then just moving and it's picking what you want across the screen, and then just let go.
But yeah, I saw you playing,
and
it
Wheel selection would be so much better.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I saw you playing it, and it did look a lot smoother than I would have thought.
Yeah, and then just pressing either one just switches back to the original one. I like just press it, and then it for some reason changes to the complete opposite thing that I wanted. I don't know why, but for the camera movement, the lock-on is very helpful. It's not like linear like what you had to deal with, but when you lock onto an enemy, it just fixes the camera onto them, but not my reticle, so I can shoot around them if I choose to, or if
I can intimidate them if I wanted to.
Yeah, it was like, here, take 20 warning shots, even though I'm looking directly at you. But it's like the looking around is like really nice because basically your remote, your Wii remote is Samus's gun, so wherever it's pointing at is what Samus is going to be looking at. So, I mean, it's like a lot easier than just like when every time you jump, it just looks down, which I thought was kind of weird. But I don't think that's the only game that did that. But I mean, I feel like the Wii version, I mean, I was playing on the Trilogy Collection, so I mean, you can't get that now on the Wii, but if you can get it on a physical copy of it, then I mean, personally, I think the Prime games is like that's like the best way to play it is on the Wii.
I've heard that. And keep in mind, I understand you really like Prime, and it's like one of your more favorite games. When I'm criticizing it, because my synopsis at the end of this is basically the this is a good game, but not a game for me. So when I'm complaining, I'm simply explaining like my perspective on why I find these things like less than desirable in games that I like to enjoy. It doesn't mean that they're bad, and like I said, you explaining why you like it is going to help me understand.
Oh no, it's not like I'm offended that you don't like it. Like I understand that this game is definitely not for everyone. When I first initially played it, I was like I don't know if this game really is for me, but I was like I don't typically play Metroidvanias. It's just like every other part about it besides being a Metroidvania is what gets me. I just like the way that Metroid plays, the characters, all of it. I just like all that. The same goes for the Metroidvania Hollow Knight. Like I like the art direction, I like the music, I like the characters. Like that's what gets me. Like if it's a Metroidvania and then nothing else is appealing about it, I'm not gonna play it.
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
I understand your hatred because
yeah.
like, you playing on the GameCube and then the way you're describing the way you're playing, and it was like I wouldn't want to play it that way either.
It's not even like hatred; it's more like disappointment because I was hoping I was going to have another round of Zelda. You know, when I like played, I'm like, oh, I have a whole new series to explore. It's like, well, I have a whole new series to ignore. But so that's Samus's arsenal. So what are we using the arsenal on? Enemies, obviously. So your two main enemy types in the game are basically just the flora and fauna of this world, Talon 4, and then the space pirates themselves. The actual like bugs and like just general like creatures around here are basically just annoyances most of the time. The worst ones are the giant two-legged ice monsters that Edwin was describing earlier. Specifically the big ones, not the tiny ones. Uh, and the pirates, especially late game, start getting really annoying because the pirates are the ones because they fly all over the place. They have guns, so they shoot you. And then later in the game, they become basically immune to all of your guns except for one distinct one, and it depends on whatever color they are. That you have to match their color in order to actually do damage, which really sucks if it's like the ice gun because the ice gun slows or shoots really slowly. So if you miss, it's such a pain to actually hit them. But so that's an overview of the enemies basically, not the bosses. Like I'll even agree with Corey. Probably like the bosses are the best part about combat in this game because I feel like they really tried with those combat encounters aside from the last one. But I really didn't care. Like at first I did like shooting them because shooting like the bugs and stuff was kind of fine. They're kind of weird because a lot of the bugs are just standing around doing fuck all. They're just being nuisances. But as Corey kind of almost alluded to earlier, and how I would have described it is that at a certain point you realize fighting enemies is pointless, especially because when you leave an area, because this kind of almost like the 2D Metroids, a lot of the areas are separated by these doors you have to shoot to open. When you leave a section through a door and then go back, all the enemies you just killed will respawn, including turrets and the space pirates and stuff. They'll all respawn. And after so once you learn that they're not really required outside of very specific circumstances to kill, you're just going to start running through these rooms because, you know, it being a Metroidvania, there's going to be a lot of backtracking because all those visors and all those guns and the morph ball and stuff. Oh yeah, speaking of the morph ball, you can use the morph ball, which lets you go into small spaces, and it has two different kinds of bombs that can blow up barriers. And it can dash. But all those upgrades, you get one at a time throughout the game. And every time you get one, you have to go back to some other place you've been before and use that upgrade to do stuff. And so that means you're going to be running through all these areas with these enemies, and at a certain point, you're just going to ignore them, and it's just going to be less enemies and more just health tax to get through the area to get where you're going. And you're going to be doing that a lot. I even did it a lot, and I was following a guide in the most efficient way possible, and even I thought it was like too much. I can't imagine what it'd be like running around just trying to figure out what the fuck you're supposed to do. So I just it's almost like Dark Souls at a certain point in the sense that it's like, all right, I already beat all you guys, so I'm just gonna run past you to get where I actually need to go because I know killing you is pointless. Um, but people can argue it's like, oh well, you kill them, that's how you get missiles and health back. I'm like, yes, technically, but because safe stations are more or less kind of they're not really common, but because they get you back up to full health with no charge, like no drawback, just using the save station, and Samus's immense amount of health after you get a few upgrades, like there's no point in farming health or missiles because if you just run back to your ship or use like one of the few missile stations, you can reload those too. I think the only resource you can't do that with is with the super bombs with the morph ball. And I remember I had to use the super bomb for a certain thing. I had none, and I had to go back and farm creatures to try and get them to drop a super bomb. And God, that was fucking annoying. Um, so I just found combat very, very tedious after a certain point because it was just more of a chore. It wasn't fun anymore. It was just like something that I had to do, like especially if I had to get through another area with more space pirates, especially late game. The bosses were fun because I felt like those were like way more dedicated combat encounters. This game isn't a first-person shooter like Halo is, where the combat's the main focus. This game is very like exploration heavy, so combat wasn't in the forefront of like what this game is. But that being said, it's still a decent chunk of it, and that decent chunk to me is very tedious and unnecessary. I really wish my solution to it would be like, if you clear a room, that room should remain clear for like the next 3 times you go through it, and then the enemies respawn. I don't mind if they respawn, but give me a couple free passes back and forth if I'm going to be going back and forth this much in a Metroidvania, especially.
Yeah, you could even vary the encounter types too, but it's always the same set.
Yeah, so like just
same
something.
Problem. I had the same problem, but it was more late game because eventually you have like a mini fight, but then those mini boss fights end up being regular encounters, and then
The ghosts.
the fucking ghosts. I was
Yeah.
like, it's like it's like
music kicks up, and you're like, damn it.
Well, it's like for me, it's not even the music kicks out. The room goes dark, and I was like, oh fuck's sake. But it's just like it's like some of them, it's just like the most annoying like mini boss common encounter. But they also on top of that, they lock you in the room, so you have to deal with it.
No, you don't.
Well, I mean, it's
only
like,
certain ones. Only certain ones.
Well, some of them is like the rooms were like way too far away, or like where I had to get to was like on the 3rd floor, so I had to like maneuver around to get to it. But it was one specific area where they showed up no matter what, and it was 3 of them. But yeah, it was like every 2 rooms away, they always respawn the enemies into the room that you left from. But it's like I'm fine with like regular enemies showing up, but like those mini boss ones should like show up like maybe every other, I don't know, 3rd encounter, or just never again.
It should just go away, right? It's like, oh, you gave me a combat challenge. It's a little bit more difficult, but and I did it. I overcame it. Well, it's every time now.
It's like, well, what if you did it again? It's like, yeah, but I don't want to. Again.
Yeah, it's. The respawning did kind of bother me, and it's mostly just because if there's an area that requires a lot of platforming, that's usually where they also have enemies that respawn, and it's like, bro, I'm just trying to jump from platform to platform. This dipshit is like shooting a missile at me from way the hell across the arena, and because they instant aggro you, the only time they don't is when you can see an enemy who's waiting for you to trigger his like jump scare attack. In some aspects, because you're like, oh, he's kind of invisible. I can see the distortion in the air. When I get to a certain part, he's going to attack. But if or the guys that are waiting on the ceiling and they're like, he can't see me. But that might work better for the one that you were playing on. But for me, because I can freely look all over the damn place, it's like, hey, look at the ceiling's full of enemies right now, and I can just lock on and just nuke one, and then start the fight that way. So that's it kind of changes that, right? And with exploration being, the main part of Metroidvania games in general, you get an ability, it unlocks more than that. You get an ability, it unlocks more than that. Unfortunately, with these combat encounters and things like that, you're getting all these guns, but I tend to just use the wave beam constantly until I got the like red gun, and you get these weapons, and I feel like the only reason why I have them is so I can open a different door color. Like I didn't get these to make my combat like even crazier. It's just if I have the ice one, I would freeze them and explode them,
Yeah,
or
that's what I did most because I just found that if I freeze them and shoot one missile, it kills like 70% of the enemies.
yeah, it's like, well, that'll just quick erase anything that I need to fucking deal with if I have to deal with it. I started dying a little more late game because I was not paying attention to certain enemies and just kind of walking by. And then the turrets, because there's a stronger version of them, they would just start melting me from a distance because they don't fucking miss.
Yeah.
But you get all this cool combat shit, and it's mainly just to open a door that we couldn't get into before.
Well, the main difference between the Prime series and the side-scrolling one is that you don't really have in the side-scrolling one. You don't whenever you get an upgrade, it just overwrites the previous one with the new abilities. So the wave beam becomes your primary power command, and then
it opens
like
all previous.
Yeah, and then instead of overwriting, they just make it something completely separate, just so they can just make areas harder to get to, or just like make it viable in some aspect, no matter how small.
Yeah, it feels good in some, in the like classic Metroidvania games that are side scrollers, where you see ledges and you're like, oh, that's really high up. I'm probably going to get a double jump at some point, or some sort of air dash or insert air movement ability here. But with this game, something that I kind of found mildly inconvenient, or maybe it was more so for others, but the areas are very hard to tell what kind of ability is going to get you through. The only way that I knew I was not in the right area is I'd finally reach a door that was a color that didn't match the gun I had, because I understand that I need to use the whip swingy do to get past some stuff, but if you just have the health for it, you can just run straight through the fucking lava and make it to the other side. So there's things that you can do in the game that would be cool if you had the ability, but you didn't need it to get through. And so that's like, well, do I need to be over here? Because there'd be times where I would get all the way through like a whole. I think I did the underwater place, and I got all the way to the door that is, I believe, like a purple door or something. And I was like, son of a bitch, you know how much platform? And I didn't have the gravity suit yet, so when you're underwater in the game, you move slow as shit. And there's these stupid enemies that bring you towards them, and when you're trying to platform and then they pull you off the platform, you fall all the way to the bottom. I think I was in that area way longer than I would have liked to be, and I saved when I got to the bottom because I thought I was going the right way. And so I'm like, I have to climb out of this place because there's no fast travel. And it's like I can't really tell sometimes if I'm supposed to be here or not, because there isn't a gate that keeps me out of things, unless it's like right up until the finish line, right? It's like waiting in line for your favorite pizza place, and then when you finally get to the door, it's closed. You're like, son of a bitch.
So, eventually after each upgrade, I realized that every time, well, at least in this game, it's different in the other Prime games, but in this one, every time you get a new item in one region, you're going to have to go to another region that you may or may not have already been at. I figured out that was the pattern even before the game realized that you're taking too long to progress, so here I'm going to tell you where to go. It's like, oh, it was just like the other region that I did not go to yet.
I'll give him this. I appreciate the fact that the game will be like, hey, go here. The problem with that is that a lot of the times, especially late game, the go here usually means you have to go get something else in order to go there first. So it ultimately at a certain point is not very helpful. But I guess that's a good transition into talking about exploration, since that's the primary gameplay of the game is exploring this map. You have some fun question mark abilities to traverse the map with. I do like the morph ball. I do find doing the what do you call that, a half pike or whatever they called it, where you do
Oh
like the
yeah, the half pipe.
skateboard. Yeah, I do like that because it's a fun little physics based like exploration. Basically, you can charge this boost with the ball, and kind of like how skateboarders go back and forth on the half bike, you do that with the ball to like go back and forth and build up your momentum to reach higher places. I'm like, that's kind of fun. I like that. Um, however, on the flip side of that, the grapple hook, at least specifically, it's probably way easier to use in the other two versions, but in the GameCube version, where I have no control over where I'm looking and I have to look up in order to latch onto things, it is the biggest pain in the ass to fucking use. The actual swinging isn't bad. It's basically the camera has to be in such a way that I can see the grapple point, and I have to pray to God it activates because otherwise Samus is just gonna fall and not use her grapple. And when you can't actually physically look up unless you awkwardly jump and then hit the lock on button to look up midway and then press the grapple button, sometimes you just will not grapple, and it is the most aggravating shit in existence. Um, Exploration ties in with the what I said earlier about having to run past the enemies, but yes, this being a Metroidvania, there is a lot of backtracking. Um, and backtracking as a concept I'm not opposed to, but when I was talking to Tim about my thoughts on the game a couple days ago, because he is a big Metroid fan. He doesn't really he really likes Metroid, so I asked him the same question. I'm like, genuinely tell me what you like about this game. And he was kind of telling me more or less kind of what things about, Edwin was saying about liking the world and stuff like that, and he was agreeing with a lot of what I was saying. But what was one of the things is that fuck, what was? Oh, so I compared it to Resident Evil, right? So Resident Evil has a lot of backtracking, but the difference between Resident Evil and Metroid Prime is that the backtracking takes place within each quote unquote level of the game. It's not like in Resident Evil, like I went all the way to like the lab, like the shark lab, and I found something. I'm like, oh, the thing, and I had to go like all the way back to the mansion to solve a different puzzle, which gave me another item to go back to the greenhouse to get something else, and then the greenhouse I went back to the shark lab to go to. You know what I'm talking about? Every area is like self-contained, whereas as what Edwin was just saying, it's like, oh, I'm over here in the Formosia Drifts or whatever, the ice area. I found a thing. I have to go all the way back to the Talon Overworld to get another thing. That means I have to go back to the Magmore Caverns to get the other thing. It's like you're running back and forth so fucking much, and getting through these areas is such a pain. It's not even like like because loading in the game is pretty fast. It's one of the early adopters of like hidden loading screens when Samus is going through the elevators. But the problem is, it's just such a pain to run past all the creatures. Open the door, get through here, go to this, and what Corey said earlier, which apparently they didn't add in the remake, which I'm kind of disappointed to learn. Something this game would vastly gain from is fast travel points. Um, I don't mean to be able to fast travel to any room I want to. My compromise would be like, just let me fast travel between save points. That's it. That's all I want. Because each area probably has like maybe two, maybe three save points. And hell, I don't even need to be able to do it from anywhere I want. Like, even restrict me to having to go to a save point in order to fast travel to another save point. Because I don't want to when I make suggestions for a game, and I've been doing this a lot more often lately instead of just hating on a game. I'm trying to understand what the fans of the game enjoy about the game, and try and make suggestions for what I think would actually improve the game but not change the game. And I understand the value of like, it's about the journey, man. It's about the pain of the journey. And is that what people like about it? Do they like that backtracking? Like, would fast travel, in all honesty, would fast travel really take away, even restricted how I just described it, that much of the game, to just cut out some of the fucking mindless running around, which I know most people are just running past the enemies anyway, so I don't know what I'm gaining other than just frustration. Which I guess people.
I think you're right though. I don't think that would hurt the game in general. I know that like classic Metroidvanias, or at least even like the original Castlevania and stuff, the backtracking didn't feel as terrible in like the Super Nintendo versions, but I get that you gave me an ability, right, to interact with the level, and I used it to get to where I was going. But even if you don't give me a save point, because like even Dark Souls, right, you don't get fast travel until after the Lord Vessel portion. So you play a lot of the game where you're walking everywhere. You don't get to just move from bonfire to bonfire. That's something they added later after everybody was like, "Thank God I have fast travel." And when they get to that point in Dark Souls, so maybe if there was like a Chozo shrine and you find one and it's like, oh cool, what does this do? And then it's like there's a resonating three others or whatever, and once they're activated, then you can use it. And so in each area there could be one fast travel point instead of having to find the elevator that goes to a different elevator, because I would love to be able to go from one of the places to another that don't have a connecting elevator, so I wouldn't have to go through like the
Gotta
fire
get on
or
your
whatever.
connecting flight.
Yeah, so it's like, let me find a Chozo shrine that could insert like alien magic here or whatever, because it resonates with Samus because of lore reasons, and then she can just teleport between these Chozo locations. It doesn't even have to be a shrine or a save point, but design it around, or like design it into the lore of the world building, and then it would be really cool, especially finding like those Chozo shrines would be neat, because when you find the Chozo statues in the game, it's kind of cool. So you could do
Yeah.
it that way, and it wouldn't ruin anything, because like, even though double jump kind of breaks the game in a sense of making moving between areas way faster, um, it's I still have to probably walk through 15 damn rooms. And by the way, because we haven't mentioned it yet, and I'm sure we'll get to it, the artifacts. I did all of the abilities before I went to go get all the artifacts, because I was like, I know I'm going to need at least a specific ability to get one. So I'm just going to get all of the abilities, and then I'll go artifact hunting. And then I just kind of got them all straight after getting those abilities at the end before I go, because you can't beat it without them. So it's like, I got all this stuff. I got that super cool looking Phazon suit because I think that's a dope ass outfit for Samus.
Yeah.
Then I went and did that. But the amount of shit where I'm just like, all right, what area? How many are here? I'm going to get all of them before I move on to the next one. I'm not going to fucking do this horse shit where I go up and down elevators for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I think the fast travel, I think the reason there is no fast travel is mainly because the way the levels are designed. I know it's the only one I remember, but I know there's one section where the game didn't want me to go the correct way. It wanted me to go backwards than from the way I went initially, because the door was covered in vines that I, for some reason, could not destroy no matter what weapon I had. So it's that flower room where you go through the front door and then you exit out the back. But by the time I reached this point, it wanted me to go from the back door and then into the room and then go through the front door. So it's like probably like things like that fast travel would kind of interrupt in terms of game design. But also going through multiple rooms or going through the room multiple times after you get like an ability and everything, it's probably there's no fast travel probably because they want you to memorize what the room is. So like because there's something in that room that you can't get to yet. So when you can get to it, they want you to remember that room. And because the more you backtrack through previous levels, you kind of forget that you got a new ability, and you can go get that missile or energy tank in that room that you passed by 5 times, and then now you finally can. But
Yeah.
I feel like fast travel would ruin that aspect, because if you just fast travel most of the time, you're skipping like 10 rooms that have a bunch of goodies in them, and then you don't even know where they are now.
Well, I think they gave Samus that sprint ability because in in Super Metroid, she has like a super jump where you run really fast and then jump like ungodly high. Obviously, that could be very weird in first person, but if they gave me like a charge sprint so that I can at least have double movement speed, then maybe the traversing the maps wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, just faster movement would have been better than fast traveling.
I guess I disagree in a certain sense because I even have a what I think of a compromise, again, I don't know how far I need to go before I'm not making it a Metroid game and I'm ruining what people like about it. But first of all, I just had a funny image in my head of first person Metroid, but she does like the fucking running jump, but when she jumps, she's doing the end over end flip, and then everyone vomits.
Yeah, just the camera's flipping.
Yeah. It's like how fucking first person GTA 5 is when they're just like, just put the camera on his face so when we don't even think about when he fucking gets hit by a car or does a fucking flip, it makes everyone at home just like vomit immediately.
Screw attack in first person.
Yeah.
It's just like constantly spinning in midair.
So funnily enough, and again, it's weird applying like modern day stuff to retro media, but so I finally, for people at home who have somehow been listening since Silent Hill 2, I finally beat it. I got the in the water ending. James killed himself. I'll go into that some other point. Yeah. I'll go into that some other point, but what I want to bring up is that, so it's like what you just said, it's like, oh, you might miss some goodies. I agree on a surface level, but what I would like, and maybe it's, again, retro media, there are ways around this. I could have whipped out some pencil and paper, I suppose. But, so the map of the game, it's not horrible. It could be a lot worse. I definitely can tell where I'm going, and it's not impossible to use. However, what a great thing about Silent Hill 2 is that when you're exploring and you run into like locked doors, or if there's something vital that you need to do to progress, like there is a puzzle piece or just something that you need to interact with, James will automatically mark it on his map for you to reference back to later. So again, part of my issue about Metroidvania is that, like, maybe, for example, it's like I remember seeing a lot of those like trackball puzzles where you finally get the ability with your morph ball to like magnetically attach to like those little tracks. I remember seeing them. So when I got that ability, I was like, oh, I can go all those tracks now. And I look at my map and I'm like, I have no idea where any of those fucking things are. I knew they were everywhere, but I didn't know where they were. So I feel like something similar-ish to how it works in Silent Hill 2, where like if you find something like that, it marks it on your map, or if it's like, hey, there's a missile upgrade here, there's a power cell here, that you didn't collect. So that way you can go back to those areas and find them. And again, even using fast travel to get to them faster, so I don't have to go through, all through God's creation to get to it. Again, I don't know if that's ruining Metroid. I don't know if that's ruining what people like about it, but it would make it easier to traverse. And even without those items, like being like, oh, trackball, trackball path here, trackball path here, ice, it's kind of how the game already marks, like, oh, this is an ice door, this is a wave beam door, stuff like that.
Better indication of like ability usage, because it's the same thing that it doesn't mark where you swing. You just kind of have to remember.
Yeah.
And since there isn't a lot of visual information on the map in general, like making a mental note is damn near impossible.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just something to help. And again, it's like I could bust out my pencil and paper. I know people do that with retro media all the time. So again, I don't know if I'm overstepping my bounds. Just like that would be my suggestion. Now,
I mean that makes sense because like Hollow Knight, like it doesn't have a lot, but it is a Metroidvania. I think the best thing that it does have, like obviously you have to like in that game you have to put on a badge that gives you a map and like an indicator to like help you show on the map where you are, but it also gives you little stickers that you can mark on the map wherever you want. But
yeah, I mean,
that's
yeah,
what you're talking about.
That would even be a good compromise. Instead of doing it automatically, just give me like being able, like, the ability to mark the map with shit if I find something. It's like, oh, here's a thing here. Another good transition. So what's in this world of exploration? This big world where you explore this weird alien place to figure out the mysteries of the space pirates and the Metroid. It's like, what's here? Save points, missile stations, upgrades that just lets you explore more. And the only two things that you can get outside of those are power cell upgrades and missile upgrades. A lot of them hidden in such esoteric ways, I have no idea how you were meant to even find them in the first place. Some of them are obvious, some of them you can clearly see, and you have to figure out how to get to them. But sometimes, when I was following this guy, he just like randomly shot a wall, and boom, there's a missile upgrade. I'm like, how the fuck would I have ever figured that out? They're not very But more to my point is that like those are the only things though, and it's not very exciting missile upgrade. Like you do get super bomb upgrades too later, so you do get one other pickup, but it's just like they're not very exciting things to find. And unless you're keeping up, especially with the missile expansions, because of how much you end up relying on the missiles later, you're really going to be hurting a lot because super missiles are really, really good, and you really, really want them later.
Yeah, I don't know. Like actual like suit upgrades are way more hype than the other ones.
I just like I don't know something else because I like collectathons. I do like collecting stuff, but those things aren't very fun to get, especially considering they're like 90% of what you find because power cells aren't nearly as common. That's more like a small complaint, and unfortunately, I can't really think of a solution to that other than just getting more shit to collect, like maybe like concept art. I don't know something. But moving on from that, we'll get near the end of the game because that is the bulk of the gameplay there and my complaints about it. It's just that is unfortunately most of the game. You find an upgrade, you use it to either traverse something or solve a puzzle somewhere. And I did like the puzzle solving actually. The puzzle solving wasn't that bad. Quite frankly, like, and I know this is way overstepping, but I almost wish the game was just devoid of combat and was just like this isolationist like exploration and like environmental puzzle solving to get through like a bunch of alien ruins. But I feel at that point it is now officially a different game. It is no longer Metroid.
You're talking like a Chozo crossed with the Witness.
Yeah, sort of.
Because that just landed on a planet, and then you're in these Chozo ruins, and Samus is trying to figure out what the hell happened here and uncover this narrative by solving puzzles. Like I think I would still enjoy that because it's basically what I was doing when I was running away from enemies, anyways.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm like
tracker.
My favorite part of the game was just being immersed in the atmosphere and like observing and figuring out the puzzles. Right. The combat's what brought it down, but again, I feel like that's overstepping to the point where it's not even a Metroid game anymore. So that brings us to the last part of the game, and let me preface this by saying it's like if I had a nickel for every time a game decided to have me go on an arbitrary quest for a bunch of random bullshit at the very end of the game to extend the life of the game, I have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice. It's funny that we just did Wind Waker going into this, and both of the climaxes are essentially the same fucking thing. So you go through all of that, and as Corey said earlier, you need to get these Chozo artifacts. There's fucking 12 of them. It's almost the same remake. It's the same. It's almost the same thing as the Wind Waker thing, because it's like, oh, it's a Triforce. There's 3 pieces, right? It's like, no, there's 8 or 12, whatever the fuck there was. But it's just like, oh, good.
Why? I broke it.
Yeah.
Why?
It's like, yeah. But so essentially, the game is like, hey, did you remember all that running back and forth you just did to get all those suit upgrades? Like, yeah. It's like, go do it again, but like 8 more times or 12 more times. It's like, oh, good. And granted, the game does give you hints on where they are, and you can get them as you go through the game. But if you don't know where they are, you are going to go through all of that and then have to go back and get them once you get all the clues to get them. And granted, it is not as tedious as Wind Waker's quest was, because that Wind Waker's quest was pretty much almost half of the fucking game. This is like the last like 30-ish% of it. Not maybe that is true. 20 to 25% of the game is this, but it's not as horrible, but it's just more backtracking to just go get more shit. So there's more running past enemies, there's more randomly getting smacked upside of your head while you're trying to find this fucking artifact. But after you get all of them, you unlock the last part of the game where you fight I guess before we go into the last bit of it, we'll talk briefly about the bosses. So there's a couple of different bosses in this game. There's the plant boss at the beginning, the golem boss, that's what I call him anyways, is the second boss.
Rock monster.
So, yeah, rock lobster. The Omega Pirate, Ridley, and then we'll talk about the last boss when we get to it. So after you get the Chozo artifacts, Meta Ridley comes out, and he looks badass as always. I've never gotten. I don't know why he's. I don't know. I never got Space Pirate from him. He's just Space Pterodactyl, but Space Mecha Pterodactyl, fire breathing monster is awesome.
Big as shit.
Yeah, he's huge. Again, Sakurai, we can't fit Ridley in Smash. He's too big. But anyways, so those are like the 4 bosses, not counting the final one. Out of all of them, I think I liked all of them. Honestly, Ridley has a few drawbacks, but the plant one was pretty intuitive and fun. I liked the golem one. The Omega Pirate can be frustrating, but once I realized super missiles fuck his shit, he wasn't so bad. But how do you guys feel about the bosses and which one's your favorite? Not counting the last one.
I like the flower just because like you have kind of a task that you have to do. It's an environmental boss fight. I guess no pun intended there, but you have something to do in order for you to trigger like this whole event. So it's very involved with all of the abilities that you have so far. But it's the only boss fight that does this. I guess not the Omega Pirate. Isn't there like a super version of it somewhere?
Yeah, the Omega Pirate.
Yeah, because there's the Omega Pirate, and then I think there's an Elite version. Like, so I guess.
Well, no. So there's like lesser Omega Pirates, but then there's like the boss Omega Pirate. When I say Omega Pirate, that's what I'm referring to. It's just the boss. But yeah, there's like lesser ones that you fight leading up to him.
Yeah, he was kind of neat, but I just rolled under him and used a power bomb, and then just kind of kept my distance. But again, when you're fighting with these things, even they did the ice guy who. Like then you kind of fight a regular. He shows up every once in a while after that, and it's like, well, this is just a strong version of the other dipshits. So the only one that really stands out to me is the flower, and then Ridley, because they just feel more like you're using the arena space instead of just standing there.
Well, that's kind of why I like the golem though, because you had to like you shot the golem, but then he would go in his ball form, and you have to go in your ball form in order to evolve. You're like marbling all over the place while he's trying to crush you, and you're playing fucking like Beyblades at that point, and you have to go back into the fighting mode to see if he actually like made you like run around the arena.
Yeah, I just fucking hate the golem one the most because it was like the most drawn out shit out of all the bosses. I agree with Corey that Ridley and the flower one were the most interesting. The flower one being just like it's different from all the others, while Ridley is like the most balanced. The Omega one was a little was pretty frustrating because it's not only the boss you're fighting, but the other smaller enemies that keep constantly bother you while you're trying to damage the boss in like his small time frame to get hurt. So I was like, I still think Ridley was a little confusing to try and get because the weak point is like really covered. But that was pretty much the only problem. Everything else is like, dodge. Just watch him like menacingly circle around to try and rip you into shreds. And then when he finally lands after losing his wings, like, oh, well, now this fight got a whole lot difficult because now it's face to face instead of him flying everywhere.
Yeah, like, well, the reason why I think the Omega Pirate's probably like the weakest, kind of what you just said, is the ads, and as you've also probably might have figured out, with the GameCube controls, ads are very, very bad because I have to rely on lock-on. So if I'm trying to lock on to the boss in the games, like, you wanted to lock on to the minion, right? I'm like, no, I fucking didn't. I'm looking at the boss. I want to shoot that. All the rest of them are only one-on-one fights, so that's why I actually like the Golem over the Omega Pirate, because it's just one-on-one. Like, a one-on-one big monster fight in this game's pretty fun. Ridley, while I really love him, again, weakness of the GameCube and me having to rely on the lock-on system, him trying to shoot him in his mouth when that becomes the weak point is incredibly difficult, because you are basically at his mercy of what animation he wants to do for whatever because he doesn't have an attack pattern. He has a set list of attacks, but which one he uses, especially when he lands, when he's done flying, is random. And a lot of them will cover his mouth outside of ones where he's like about to breathe his fire, where you can shoot him in his mouth. And it's just kind of aggravating because dodging is not fun because there is no button to dodge. It's like move to the left or right and press B, but then Samus will dodge until she decides she doesn't want to dodge, and then you just get fucking rickrolled. So like movement's a bit of a hassle, especially on the GameCube version. Dealing damage to bosses can be really annoying sometimes, because outside of using like your super missiles, like if you're just shooting regular shots at them, you might as well be throwing wet paper at them for all the damage it does. If you actually want to kill them, like within this century, you have to use like super missiles when they're vulnerable. Uh, but overall, I think the boss fights probably were the strongest combat portion of the game because at least they were engaging. Um, Now, moving on to the last bit of the game with when two times I had two times in this game where I was like, what was it, the DiCaprio meme where it's like he's pointing at the TV and whistling with his like drink in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's like, oh, you fight the Metroid Prime. I was like, ah, there it is, the Metroid. It's what the game's named after. But the Metroid Prime, it's what you think it is. It's a fucking Super Metroid, which they couldn't just let you go at this point. You have to go through this really small dungeon of basically powered up Metroids harassing you to get to the Metroid Prime, which I realized that those Metroids infinitely respawn, and at this point the Metroids have become invulnerable to everything. But they kind of became the pirates, to basically where only one of your beams are going to work on any one of them. Also, they split into two. Also, they don't share a weakness. Have fun. Also, when they attack you, they almost never ever miss, and when they get attached to you, you have to go into Morph Ball and use a bomb because they won't come off pretty much any other fucking way. Also, there's platforming. Have fun, asshole. That's really aggravating, and I only realized after losing a quarter of my health that the Metroids were infinitely respawning, and I just had to ignore them in order to get to the boss. The boss itself isn't the worst thing in the world, at least the first phase. It pretty much shares most of the late game enemies like stick, is that it's only ever vulnerable to one of your beam weapons at once, and it's determined by whatever color it is. Its attacks are easy enough to avoid, except for the fucking laser beam, which just spawns instantly, and there's like literally no point, and like you cannot dodge it. And also, when it charges across the room and the game decides that, no, you weren't actually in Morph Ball form, I'm just going to claw you back in front of the boss and you took damage. I'm like, but I did the thing what I was supposed to do. And the game's like, no, you didn't. Just a lot of funky physics because, like, at a certain point, the boss charges you and you have to go into Morph Ball into this little divot in the floor to avoid it. But 9 times out of 10, the boss will just hit you anyways and it doesn't matter. Which, yeah, I think they understood. I mean, it's probably a thing with other Metroid games. But Samus has a fuck ton of health in this game. I think because they knew you are going to get hit. There is like almost no, like I'm sure there's a fucking no hit speedrun out there somewhere, but like for the vast majority of people, you are just going to get hit no matter how hard you try to avoid it. This is the only time I died was my first round against the Metroid Prime, because then it goes into phase 2 and then it fucked me over by spawning the Super Metroids and I just died. The phase 2 is supposed to be a gimmick fight because it's basically invulnerable to everything but this super laser that you can only use once it spits some goo on the ground that phase-on crap, and you can fire the super laser at it.
Ever do in this fight?
Yeah, it's the only
why I died during this fight. It's because I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do right
now? Yeah. Yeah, and then it'll spawn Metroids, and at first it'll spawn the weaker Metroids, which is fine, but then it spawns the Super Metroids, and you just have to pretty much ignore them and try and race to finish the boss, because otherwise you are just not going to be able to kill these things. They take a lot of damage, and you have to keep cycling your beam weapons, and the boss just spams AoE moves all around the arena. But eventually you kill it, and it sucks the Varzia suit off of you, which is a suit upgrade that lets you walk on like this dark matter phase-on shit. Which, as soon as it sucked it off, again, I had my second DiCaprio moment of just being like, that's Dark Samus! It's Dark Samus! So
two more games at a third one coming.
But Samus wins. She flies off the planet after killing the Metroid Prime and defeating everything. She takes off her helmet, which is probably the only thing that's really rough. Samus does not look very good in the GameCube version. I'm like, oh, put your helmet back on, sweetie. No, thank you. But it was just the weakness of the time. Humans are hard to get right, especially because Samus is one of the few like Nintendo characters that's like realistically human. But yeah, and that's the end of the game. I only died the only time in the game I died was during that last boss fight. But at this point I was kind of done with the game because I was getting really sick of running back and forth and just wanted to be done with it. It wasn't even like the time constraints. I had plenty of time to play this game. But after a certain point, I just had zero desire to play it. Like Wind Waker, I wanted to play it. so I couldn't wait to get back on the game to play it. But like this, I was deliberately of like procrastinating because I did not want to play it. I was not having fun anymore. I wasn't mad. I just wasn't having any fun because I just didn't find the gameplay fun. It's like so I did it out of obligation. That being no, go ahead.
Have you ever played any of the side-scrolling Metroids, or just
no? Remember
one?
what I said at the beginning of this. I have never played any other Metroid game ever. Period.
Okay.
But so what do you guys think about the finale of the game with that last boss and stuff? Go ahead.
The last boss initially reminded me of the alien from Independence Day at first, and that's like I don't understand how this is what you guys got of the little like jellyfish monster, but okay. It's still kind of cool looking to me. The fight itself, it kind of sucks that it's basically just a endurance run of those regular enemies that are like unique. But I mean, I kind of figured they were going to make me use the different weapons, but they could have had like various shields or something, or like that I have to like wear down, and then once that one's gone, use the next weapon instead of what's he going to change to now? Because depending on your RNG, by the time you change to something after like he runs across, you roll underneath him, you switch your gun, and then he shoots you with something, but he just changed into something else. Like damn it! And then when he turns into the ice one, I'm like, this is I can't hit him in the face because the bullet's so damn slow, so I have to get really close. And one of the runs, because like I said, I died fighting the final version. He turned into the ice one like a bunch, and it's just like, can you not do that? I hate this gun so much for this fight. I kind of like the design of the Prime, like outside of the shell stuff, but that fight too was pretty cakewalk on my end. Just because I would turn to the morph ball whenever the Metroids were summoned. I'd run to the thing, turn to the morph ball, drop a power bomb, turn back into Samus, stand in the goo. The morph ball would just erase the Metroids, and then whether or not I had to use like X-ray vision or whatever to find the stupid guy, I would just hold down the thing and tank him. The first time I didn't realize I had to stand in the goo because at no other point in the game do you ever do that to anything. So why would I even know to do that? Even though you scan them, I guess, and they might mention it, but it just doesn't make any sense because it's like, well, I don't have that gun. And maybe if they made me use the plasma gun or something, because once I got the red gun, I thought maybe this would be the strongest thing you get, but apparently that's also not the case. So it was just, that was weird to me, but I thought the design was kind of cool. It was just seemed a little bit more, I don't know, I still like the flower fight more than the last boss.
I was a little lost for like the last third of the game because I was completely surprised. Like, oh, the Phazon is in this game because I was aware that I was like, oh, Phazon is a part of the Metroid Prime series specifically. But it's like again, I did beat the game before. It was a very long time ago, so I forgot most of the stuff. So I knew there was a final fight after Ridley. I completely forgot about the artifact collecting. But fighting the Metroid Prime in the shell, then the spider shell, I was like, I thought that was the end of it. I was like, oh, I beat the game, and then when it left the shell, it was like, oh, I guess I'm not done yet. And the same with you guys. Like when I scanned the thing because none of my attacks were working, it said use Phazon. I was like, I don't have that gun. And then it says when you stand in the puddle. It's like I looked around this dark ass room and didn't see any puddles until I looked super closely and then saw the bluish outline that the puddle also makes. So I was like, then I realized like, oh, it's one of those fights. And then after damaging the boss a little bit, I almost died because I didn't realize that I had to change visor because I kept switching to the wrong one. And then I finally realized the pattern that he just goes in a circle between visors, and it's just a circle pattern of Just waiting until he poops, then stand in it, and then just shoot him and then switch visors. And that's pretty much the whole fight for it. So it was like, well, I think I had like 2 or 3 energy tanks left, so I was close to dying on that last part. Every other time that I died was from being stubborn or environmental stupidity.
To be fair, and it's still not perfect, but when it does first vomit out the Phazon puddle, the game basically pauses and shows you it, like clearly bringing attention to it. But if I had, but against it, I would also say, why the fuck would I step in that? It almost looks like I shouldn't. So why would I do that?
Yeah, it seems like it could be corrosive.
Yeah, it probably did show up, but I was mashing the A button so fast, and that was like I accidentally skipped it, so I just started scanning the boss. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, but yeah, that's Metroid Prime. So we'll move into final thoughts here. Personally, like, I made my thoughts about this perfectly clear. Talking with you guys tonight and Tim the other day, is I'm still not fully like 100% like understanding why people like this game, but I'm getting it a little bit because it's almost like, again, I want to bring Dark Souls up again, but it's like I don't really care for Souls likes, but I perfectly understand why people like the game. This, I'm just like, I don't understand why you would like tediousness like this. Like, I don't mind backtracking, I don't mind like that kind of stuff, but it's just like just some small quality of life improvements would probably have improved my time at the game. It still wouldn't have fixed it entirely because I still don't think I would have been very invested in like the world or anything. I don't think I'd still be very invested in the story. I still don't think the overall like combat and stuff would have really hooked me, but it would have made it better and less tedious. Would have gained some points in my opinion, but overall, I feel like what I brought out of this was like, yeah, I'm glad people, like, whoever enjoys this, I'm glad you enjoy it. I really am. I simply just don't understand what's good about it, and it just probably means the game's not for me. People can easily turn around and say that about a bunch of shit I like, so it's probably just one of those situations. If I had to approach it objectively as a game, and it probably would go up points for the remaster for any kind of quality of life they bring into it, but if I was going to slap a 1 through 10 score on this, trying to leave my personal opinions out of it, probably be like a 7, like, because it's a good game, but it does have a lot of like drawbacks. And remember, I'm talking specifically about the GameCube version. I'm struggling to give it a 7. I might give it a 6, because between a 6 and a 6.5. There you go. But if I was doing it personally, I'd give it like a 4, maybe a 3, but that's personal. That's taking all my personal gripes with it into account. I wish I liked it. I went in really wanting to like it, but I just don't. And it's, you're not going to like everything. It's fine. Maybe if we continue with Prime or do some other Metroid game, hey, maybe I'll like the 2D ones, but I don't think I will, because I've tried Metroid Dread a little bit when I was over at Corey's place the last time I was there, and I wasn't vibing with that either, so I don't think Metroid is a series for me. It's just, I'm glad people like it, but I'm just stuck in the dark wondering what made it so popular in the first place, so.
Well, next Either time one of you. You should give the remake a go. Just, not to obviously play it all the way through, but just to, like, now that you've endured the GameCube version, just to see what the remake feels like and in comparison, and be like, damn, I wish I played this version of the game instead.
Try the Wii one.
But, yeah, I mean, like I said, my opinions would probably go up, but I still think overall I would be, just be like, meh, yeah, it's all right, but I'm not really invested. Because like I said, Zelda, I'm fully invested in Zelda now. Metroid, probably not. I'm not going to be, no more.
But well, for you, it's not the version that bothers you. It's just the idea of what Metroid is.
Yeah, like I said, even if you took all the quality of life improvements I suggested, it definitely would have improved my opinion of it. I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty decent, but I'm still not like super invested at all. Because it's just the main game. Because again, it's like I don't know how much I have to change before now I'm changing it to something I want it to be rather than what the fans of it want it to be. So I don't know how far it has to, how much leeway I have in making changes, hypothetically speaking, in that regard. So it's just one of those things.
So for me, real quick, before kind of diving in, something I thought about for the map, at least that could make that a little bit better, is utilizing the game's own mechanic already, and that mark things on the map when I scan them. So that could have been a way to like kind of unlock the map as you go, because then if I spent the time to scan stuff in the area, like it should recognize that I scanned that thing there, but the only time you ever get it, I guess, is because they turn into like journal entries or something. So that it would be a way to utilize mechanics that are already within the game without changing it too much. Is I scan that there's a missile upgrade because I can see it from here, but I can't quite get to it. So when I look at my map, it shows there's a missile upgrade because I have scanned that. So
yeah, it's a good compromise. I like that.
Yeah, that could work. But overall, I am looking forward to Metroid Prime 4. That really hasn't changed. And I'm curious to see what they do with it, especially since it's a more modern game. I know that there was complaints from Gamescom for the mouse controls and stuff, but I'm not going to use the fucking mouse controls anyways, because as soon as they announced those, I was like, nah. But for this, playing the remake, I really did enjoy it. I love the music, so whenever I'd play it, even though I'm just lost or whatever, it's just like, oh, except for the caverns, the lava bullshit. I would just kind of vibe out, especially when I was looking for the artifacts at the end after having the abilities. It's some of these things are hidden in really weird ways, but that transcends all the Metroids where it's like, oh yeah, you blow up this block that you never would have fucking guessed would be there, and now you can go in because that was a hidden path. But when they say hidden, they mean like literally invisible path. And
yeah,
that could be problematic when it comes to level design stuff, because there needs to be aspects that are subtle but at least visible. Zelda has bomb walls; you can see those, and I know there's visors and stuff like that, but you're not walking around the game in X-ray vision or thermal vision. You only ever use those for combat, except for the one room that has hidden platforms in it. But I think that's like the only room that has hidden platforms in it. I don't think that you ever use it for a lot of hidden platforms, or you're fighting the ghost enemies or something. But even still, you see the ghost enemies, and then they go invisible, so they're in the room. So it's there's a lot of weird kind of balancing, I guess, that you could do to it. But I play the Metroidvania like 2D games. I've dabbled in the Prime series, and I did enjoy playing the game despite some of the issues that I had with it. But some of the things don't really drag it that far down for me. So I think I would give it a 7. I was happy to walk away with this. I was looking forward to talking about it on this episode just because I did enjoy myself as I went through it, even though there was a couple aspects that did kind of drive me crazy. But once I got a guide, unfortunately, I kind of was just using it to be like, what am I supposed to go find after this item? And then it would be like, oh, the visor in the ruins. And it's like, okay. And then I would close the guide and I would head to the ruins to go get the thing. So I didn't need it like verbatim, but it really kind of sucks because I didn't want to go get lost, because a lot of the times what I end up doing in games is, I guess it doesn't sound bad, or it might sound bad, but bare minimum is like I try to beat JRPGs at the lowest level I think I can be, and if I can't beat a boss fight, I'll level up one more time just to see if I can out health the damage kind of thing. So this game could have benefited, I think, from letting me get into areas without certain aspects if you designed it in a way where it's like you can get in there, but since you don't have the actual item, it would be a more difficult route or a longer route, but you can still get into this place and then get into the boss fight. Like finding the artifacts doesn't give you any benefit to fight. It just triggers the boss fight. If you found the artifacts because they did the whole Dark Souls 2 thing where you go and kill all the giants to lower the health, then you'd be like, okay, I got all 12 artifacts, so this dude is totally done. Or Breath of the Wild, right? They do the same thing where you can just go fight Ganon, or you can weaken him by going through the beasts. And if the artifacts weakened the boss, then that would be cool. But if I could just jump into that boss fight and fight him full power, and it's just up to me to dodge things, that would have also been a welcome experience too. Because it's like, yeah, I don't care about the artifacts. I want to fight him, even though I know this is going to be harder. And so there's just a couple things that would change, but I don't think they would break the game too much, especially for like late game stuff.
I don't mind the artifacts being mandatory. I think my problem is the amount of them. I just feel like there should be like one per area. Like it's like the last thing you get in every area. I don't want. I think my issue with it is kind of like how they do it in Wind Waker. It feels like you're going, like you're on this good clip of progress, then all of a sudden you like hit this fucking brick wall all of a sudden, and it's just like, oh fuck.
Padding.
So it's like, instead of making it to where it's like I get all the abilities and then like realize, oh fuck, I have to go find all these artifacts, just make it to where at the end of every, I mean, again, am I making it not a Metroid game at this point where everything is like a level, like, or there's like a big puzzle you gotta solve? Maybe that, like maybe make it to where like you do have to do it at the end where you have all your abilities, but it's like one big puzzle that like a big puzzle, one per area, that incorporates all the abilities you have in order to solve it, and then you get an artifact, one per area. Instead of having like 12 of them, there's like 4 or 5. Just reducing the amount of them.
It could have
I think it's like the only Metroid that does it.
Huh?
Well, I think it's like that's the only Metroid that has that type of end game. I guess that type of thing in it entirely, where it's like you have to collect these things in order to progress.
Well, that's good, but unfortunately, it still exists. So
yeah, it could have been nice to have like a Chozo temple again, leaning into the Chozo lore and Samus's abilities to be like, now that you have all of this stuff, in order for you to get into where the Ridley fight is, you have to like go through the trial of the Chozo or something, and then you utilize all your abilities to get to the end of it. And that's kind of a Zelda-esque approach, but I think it still would have worked.
Yeah,
it's forcing me to walk through. But we're redesigning the game in this aspect. So
well, kind of. We're trying to incorporate stuff that the game already does, just in different kinds of things. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like you're still using your different abilities to obtain the 12 different artifacts. They're just in like really random, arbitrary areas scattered throughout the world. It's just trying to like make it into a more like bombastic, structured, finale-ish thing that incorporates all the stuff you have into more like a challenge rather than a chore. I think we're working within the realm of what the game is capable of, instead of just redesigning it entirely.
But again, I enjoyed it. 7 out of 10 for me. I think that I'm excited to see what Metroid Prime 4 is going to do, especially on the Switch 2. I like the art direction from the trailers, so I kind of really want to walk around that world and see what they do and see what kind of enhancements or improvements they might have made for the presumably last installment in the Prime storyline. And there, I will pass it to you, Edwin.
I mean, I don't remember a lot of my previous playthrough before this one. So there's like a lot of things that got to me more than what I expected. Like I still like the Prime series, probably because the Wii version is just like my favorite. It's the way I first played Resident Evil 4, so I mean I like it playing that way too. But like most of my memories for the Prime series is mainly from 3, because Prime 3 is my favorite. 2 is the only one that I did not finish entirely, so not much knowledge on that one. But Prime 1, I like the entirety of it, but I understand like the gripes that anyone would have with the constant backtracking, the Chozo artifact collecting. For me, like the boss fights go on for a little too long, where it becomes really tedious, and it's just like stressing not to die, so that way I don't have to start over. But like, yeah, I agree with you guys. Like a 6.5 to 7 is a good score. There are some issues with the game itself, but there's still a lot of things to like about it. But obviously, nothing to force anyone to enjoy it. But I was like, well, I played it before, and then I played it again for the podcast for this video. But like, I mean, I like it, but I can't really I can't really imagine myself planning to play it for the future. I'd rather play something else, or at least another Prime game besides the first one.
I wouldn't be opposed to doing it again if everyone else voted to do another Metroid game. I'd pick it back up. But as far as like of my own free will, I don't think so.
Unless there's for shits and giggles.
Well, I mean, theoretically, I go to Corey's house and fucking Prime 4 is just sitting there. I'll try it, but I'm not gonna buy it until I like learn otherwise. Because it's a shame. Because like I said, I really did want to like this game because I really do like Samus as her character, and also takes in not an what word am I looking for? An unsignificant portion of folders on my computer. But she's a cool character, and I really wish I enjoyed it more. But it's just I don't know. I just can't get past the actual gameplay of the game. So, but overall, decent game. I'm glad I at least tried it. But yeah,
will probably be, if another Metroid one, it'll probably be Metroid Fusion. It's a side scroller, but it is the most popular one.
And it's on Game Boy Advance.
Yep, so it's easy for all of us to get.
Yep. But alrighty, thanks for joining us, folks. I hope you have some kind of perspective on Metroid Prime, and you either were entertained or learned something with us here today. Next month it's going to be flip-flopped. I'm going to be ecstatic about next month's game of the month. We're going to be doing Space Marine 2, which I am very excited for. Up until then, we'll have more Anime Book Club, a couple other things on your way, but until then, we will talk to you guys later. So don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed today's episode, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify and or Rumble, and don't forget to keep exploring, keep playing, and keep listening. Until next time, this is the Mediocre Rumble Brothers podcast, and we will see you guys next time.
Space chickens.
Metroid is a cool girl.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Corey, and thanks for checking out Mediocre Rumble Brothers. If you liked the video, please drop a like, and if you didn't, that's fine too. If you'd like us to talk about any specific games, drop a comment below, or feel free to discuss your experience with the games that we mentioned in the episode. You can also listen to our episodes prior to YouTube on our Spotify. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again soon.